Hello everyone, my name is Doreen Odunga. I am the Cabinet Secretary Programs and in charge of designing and implementing projects at Variable Care Society. I will be your host for today's meeting, which is organized by Variable Care Society, an organization that stands at the forefront of advocating for the rights of intersex individuals in Kenya. We are proud to be an intersex-led organization driven by a deep commitment to creating a more inclusive and equal society for all. In a world that often overlooks or misunderstands the experiences of intersex individuals, Variable Care Society stands to raise awareness, challenge societal norms, and promote the rights and well-being of intersex people in Kenya. Our organization believes that every individual, regardless of their gender identity or biological characteristics, deserves respect, dignity, and the right to self-determination. Today, we have gathered here to discuss an important topic that is often overlooked in mainstream conversations, the history and activism of intersex individuals. It is vital that we acknowledge and understand the struggles and achievements of intersex people throughout the history, as well as their ongoing fights for recognition, acceptance, and equality. Intersex history is a tapestry woven with stories of resilience, bravery, and perseverance. It is a history that challenges the binary understandings of gender, highlighting the beautiful diversity that exists within humanity. By delving into the past, we can gain insight into the impact of societal norms, medical interventions, and cultural perspectives on intersex individuals. Furthermore, today's agenda will also delve into the realm of intersex activism. We will explore the various efforts made by intersex-led organizations, both locally and internationally, to amplify intersex voices, raise awareness, and advocate for legal protection and societal change. By understanding the activism that has shaped the intersex rights movement, we can chart a course towards a more inclusive and equitable future. Let us engage in an open dialogue, learn from one another's experience and perspectives, as well as explore the rich history and inspiring activism of intersex community. Together, we can work towards a society that embraces and celebrates the inherent diversity of all individuals, ensuring that intersex people can live their lives with dignity, autonomy, and respect. Thank you for being here today. Let us proceed with this important discussion. Welcome. It's with great pleasure that we introduce our esteemed guest speakers who will be sharing their invaluable insights and experiences in the field of intersex and human rights activism at large. Today, we have the privilege of hosting individuals who have dedicated their lives to raising awareness and advocating for the rights and well-being of intersex individuals. Firstly, we welcome Caroline Ruka, a renowned intersex and human rights activist at large, who has been at the forefront of the movement for many years. Her tireless efforts are focused on dismantling societal norms and promoting inclusivity and acceptance for the intersex individuals. With a wealth of knowledge and personal experiences, our guest speaker, Ruka, is sure to provide us with a unique perspective on the challenges faced by the intersex individuals and importance of advocacy. Next, we have the honor of welcoming Elizabeth Atieno. As a respected researcher and educator, Elizabeth has made a significant contribution to the field of intersex studies. Her work sheds light on the medical, ethical, and legal aspects surrounding the intersexuality, fostering understanding among the professional and the wider community. Elizabeth's expertise will undoubtedly enrich our discussion and help us navigate the complex and intersex activism more effectively. Our guest speakers today truly embody the spirit of activism, advocating for the societal justice, equality, and human rights. Their diverse perspective and expertise will undoubtedly fuel meaningful discussions and inspire us to take actions. Let us extend our gratitude and give a warm welcome to Caroline Ruka and Elizabeth Atieno. Karibu.
Hi everyone, happy Friday to everyone. It's so nice to be here. My name is Caroline Ruka. and I'm from Kisumu, from Western Kenya LBQT Feminist Forum, an organization within Western Kenya that centers intersectional feminism at the core of all our advocacy actions, with the main aim of creating spaces for access for LBQITGNC persons. We are based in Kisumu currently, but we are working around 8 counties within the region. And I am really happy to, be part of this conversation. I'm a feminist, an intersectional feminist in that case, and it is always really great to, celebrate histories, talk about, the histories of the movement this far, the gains, the achievements, the challenges, and the way forward. So I'm really happy to, be part of this conversation and really looking forward to a very fruitful day. Sorry about that. A very fruitful conversation. Cheers.
All right. Thank you so much. Um, Before we proceed, seeing Mr. Fidi with us, kindly say a few words before we carry the day off.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fidi Rovinomolo. I work with VCS, an intersex person, and I'm happy to be with you all today. I'm here to learn and also share a few personal stories as an activist. So karibuni sana.
Asante sana. So, for those of us who are here today, today we are celebrating the history, the intersex history, and the milestone as advocates of human rights. And with this particular day, we're looking at the intersex people. So, we're celebrating the contribution of intersex activists and also acknowledge the historical milestones in intersex rights movement. So I will give a brief introduction of who an intersex person is, or what is the easiest way that you can understand who an intersex person is. So intersex means this is an individual who is born with the physical, hormonal, or the chromosomal variations that do not fit the binary notion of the typical male or female. So this is in Kenya. We have the I gender marker, that is the intersex, and when you say the binary, most of the time we know it is the typical male or the female. But we're saying this is someone who is not typically identifying as a male person or typically identifying as a female person. So their hormonal structure, the physical and the chromosomal variations are neither the male or the female. They fit for both for some people. So these are what we consider as intersex people. So today we are looking at the history perspective of how the journey has been for the intersex people, how we have the activism journey has also been for the changes we have experienced in Kenya as activists, and also the recognition of the intersex people in our country. So we have Liz today, who we have learned that she's an activist of gender matters. And Liz, as your personal experience, how has your activism been? How have you? What has been the experience so far as an activist on gender matters?
Thank you, Doreen. So I will use my own example, and like growing up in a family from Ushago, from Kisumu, but I was actually raised in Mombasa. So like for what I was doing, but I was always that person who would always call things out, and like I refused to conform to things that people thoughts that were normal or conform to what was supposed to like be done by myself as an African girl child. And so like I received a lot of punishments as a kid. Like I used to get punished a lot because I was always on the rebelling side. And then I went to high school, it was the same thing. Then from there, like I just did not know what to do. I wasn't lucky enough to like proceed to campus or college like how other people will do immediately after high school. But then I joined the human rights movement in 2019, and then I started actively engaging in advocacy work and activism in 2020 when I started volunteering at the Coast Sex Workers Alliance. So working with a sex workers led organization has actually not been easy, given that already sex work is criminalized, and like you cannot boldly talk about sex workers issues in front of everyone, or even if someone from home asks you where are you working or what is the nature of your work, you also don't know what to tell them because of the stigma and the morality debate that goes on about key populations movement. So you'll find that in our work as activists, we are always the people who pour out, like we give out, we talk, we try to defend. Like it is not easy because like no one looks into, especially women human rights defenders, like no one looks into their issues past their work. Like everyone just wants to work with you, but like everyone just wants you to put into their work, like, and this comes from donors, partners, allies. Like everyone just wants you to like meaningfully engage. Everyone wants you to give inputs, and like no one wants to know how this work actually affects you as a person. How are you feeling? Like it's always from January to December. I actually applaud so many other organizations because now people are embracing the silent weeks, but it has been a long journey to get there, and also it has been like long days and long nights of work trying to write proposals so we can like sustain our work. And we know that we as activists, we also largely depend on donors. Even when you are supposed to rest, like you just want to think about where your next salary or stipend will come from. So like my journey as an activist, I have always been like on survival mode. Like I'm either trying like to still stay relevant in them, like still stay relevant in the movement, or I'm either trying to like look for ways on how I can sustain our movement. Mara, you are outside and you hear people spreading misinformation about the movement you want to defend. Like it has always been like that. And an example that summarizes my whole experience as an activist, I will give an example of back in the year 2021. I was somewhere for a conference, and then I met this person at a hotel. So he was just trying to talk to me, and I was in a foreign country, I was alone, so I did not want to engage much because like I did not feel safe with this person like around me and trying to talk to me, so I was just quiet. And then he later asked the waiter, like I don't know, like he just ended up paying my bills. And then I don't know if that was an invitation to for him to come sit by me or what. Like he joined my table. And then like he tried to talk to me. I wasn't very responsive. And then he asked me like, why am I there? So I told him I'm here for this conference. Then he asked me, what do I do? I said I am a community activist. And then he was like, oh, okay. What happened to you? Like people assume that all activists actually went through something really, really sad for them to end up being an activist. I'll pass it over to you, Dee.
Thank you so much. So, what I'm getting is that this person asking you a question that there has to be something that has happened to you. What I'm getting is that this person is asking you if there has to be something happening to you for you to actually be an activist or to be an advocate for anything, for this matter, human rights. And I hope it's clear that nothing has to happen to you for you to defend people's right or to be on the voice of those who really need that voice. So if you find it within yourself that this is the cause, this is what you need to do for people to listen, or for a different community or a vulnerable community to hear your voice or for their voice to be heard, be on the forefront for to help those people, because it doesn't have to be a personal experience. It can come from a different area of life. It can come from just within you, that you find you don't feel right about something happening to a certain community, or but long and short of it, anyone can be an activist of anything. Before we proceed, I would also just like us to understand the journey that has been for the intersex community, the historical journey. And for those who don't know, the history of the intersex recognition in Kenya has been a little bit shaky. And at this time, as we're speaking, there are some people who still don't believe that intersex people exist, in as much as Kenya has identified the intersex people and acknowledging them the I gender marker in registration of birth certificates. So, just to begin, a long time ago, I don't want to dig deep into the history. The intersex were being called the hermaphrodites. So, that was between the 18th and the 19th century. But if you've been in the activism world, you know that that word that is used to belittle or to, I don't know how to say it in English, but in the simplest way, the word in Swahili is kudarau, is used. Most people use it to actually identify with it, so that you don't have a reason to actually use it against them. So the hermaphrodites was the word that was used then to identify the intersex people, or to call the intersex people. So this was later changed to the intersex people in the by the medical practitioners in the 20th century. So history says that an intersex person is not an alien. It is a normal birth condition that happens to anyone, as much as you are born a female, you're born male, you are born intersex, and intersex variation can be identified early, others cannot be identified early. So you can't confidently say that you are a typical male, you can't confidently say that you're a typical female. So some symptoms occur later on in life, and others can be seen as early as you're born. So in Kenya, there are communities in that they identify the intersex people, but at this time it's still a taboo to discuss an intersex person within those communities. But from the task force report brought in that their community does even have the native languages that could be used to the native names to identify the intersex people. Like Swahili name for the intersex is called Hunta, and when you come to the sorry when you come to the Maasais, there also a name called the Tapi. Somali had a name, the Kikuyu, Luos, Kamba. So this is just to say that it is not a strange occurrence. They knew intersex people exist, and we as a country, we know that intersex people are normal people. So by the time that Kenya has reached a point where we were living in a silence, that we're not free, or the stigma within the intersex community, that the shame within the intersex community was there, that you cannot identify with one, or if you happen to have an intersex child, you don't want to involve your relatives, you don't want to involve the community. it remain a stigma you and your child or your sister or whoever it is. But at this time that Kenya has come out and say that, hey, we can identify ourselves as who we are. You can get your birth certificate that identifies you as who you are. You don't need to take a different gender. When you feel comfortable identifying with the sex that you're given at birth, you are assigned at birth. So yes, I'll say that Kenya, we are heading somewhere. We are not yet there that I can say confidently that we are recognized, but the fact that we can now register our names using the gender marker in our birth certificate, it's a good thing. In the IDs, it's a good thing. And also, the last census, the intersex people were also involved in it. So we are not yet there, but we are heading somewhere. So just to say a few words is that Kenya tumetoka mbali and we're still going far, and it will reach a point that we will not be talking about an intersex person being a marginalized. In as much as, yes, we are still marginalized, the journey is not ending today or tomorrow. It will be a long journey, but just to understand where Kenya is coming from, that is the brief history of the intersex people in Kenya. So, Ruka, how has been your experience as an LBQ feminist in your journey as an activist? How has it been? And because we can't talk about the intersex without addressing the matter of intersectionality, so kindly just also dwell into the intersex people in matters of the feminine in your activism journey. Yeah, I'll really appreciate. Karibu.
Thank you so much, Doreen, for this opportunity once more. So I will talk about my history, my journey as an activist. I think maybe in Mkongwe, after listening to Liz speak, Liz joined the movement the other day. I pretty much feel that meaning Congo movement since I joined the movement. Like I started my activism journey after, like within high school. After high school, around 2007, actively joined activism, but with the main focus on teen moms because I was a teen mom then. And then later on, I joined the LGBTI movement in 2012. So it's been a journey. And in 2012 in Kisumu, actually at that particular time, I joined a movement that had already formed, a movement that was already in existence for like 4 or 5 years already since the movement in Kisumu started, like, growing as an LGBTI movement around 2009. And when you look at activism within Kisumu, it was LGBTIQ, the whole letters of the alphabet. And that was where it started then. And I really appreciate where the movement started because at that particular point, people were like, let's join the movement, let's get into somewhere. At least penye tunaona, there are some of us, there are people we can identify with, there are people like that are, different like us, there are people of my kind in this particular space. So let's join this kind of space and meet other people. In like ilikuwa inaka, it was snowballing, like a snowballing effect to knowing people within the movement at that particular time in around 2009. So I joined the movement in 2012. I actually joined as an accountant because to provide professional services, not as a pansexual, non-binary person that I am. I joined as an accountant, and at that particular time, I was very deep in the closet, and just wanted to provide my services and go home. But I really liked the fact that these spaces had been created, were being created at this particular time, where people could identify and could come together and could say, well, we have we are a minority within a larger minority within a minority, that this space would give us, like, space to voice out our issue. So that was around 2012. So the issues of intersectionality now started coming at around, I think, 2016, 2015. Within Kisumu, I will talk about my context, where I've been actively active as an activist. So within around 2016, that's where issues of intersectionality started coming in. We recognized that we needed to come together. We came together. After coming together, most of the programming, remember, at this particular time, had a focus and a bias on GBMSM, and I will talk about this, being very cognizant and being very deliberate, knowing that I have privilege, especially since I am a non-intersex person. So I cannot generally speak about the experiences of persons within intersex bodies, but I can speak about my experiences as an activist that does activism for for human rights, and human rights for all that is. So at this particular time, we started recognizing that we have struggle. We have struggle as an umbrella LGBTI movement, but we have various struggles that are intersecting, that are also very specific to very specific groups. And being able to recognize these was actually the beginning of introduction of intersectionality. Intersectionality then dictated that we recognize that we have a struggle. It may be the same because we are fighting issues around policy work, we are fighting issues around attitude transformation, we are fighting issues around community engagement and how the community perceives us. Then we also have differences as a community. LBQ women, trans and non-binary persons have their issues. Intersex persons had their issues that were very specific to this specific group of people, and recognizing that then gave strength to different, the different letters of the alphabet to then come together, build very tiny movements. And that is how movements started coming up. And that is around 2016, 2017, 2018. You'd see the trans movement had come up. You'd see the intersex movement had come up. You'd see the LBQ movement had come up, and ilikuwa struggle. It was a struggle, and other folks would say, now you're dividing the movement, but that division was very important for us to recognize that there needs to be intersectional and deliberate involvement of everyone. There is need for everybody to be on the table to speak to speak about their issues. There is need for us to recognize that even within these similarities, there are differences. So around 2016 to 2018, that is when issues being deliberate about intersectionality and about persons being able to represent themselves and being intentional really started around that particular time. And that is when, the various actually movements started growing. I would say we didn't have, in Western Kenya, we didn't have a very strong standalone intersex movement, but there had been spaces. There had been intersex activists. There had been intersex persons that were deliberate about including even the voices within Western Kenya. I remember Muhesh, I saw Muhesh on this call, Kwambox, and they were there to even help up with the mapping of intersex persons, support. There was one intersex organization in Vihiga that had come up at that particular time. There was that kind of deliberate support from even the national level human rights organizations. Jinsi Yangu was there, to come and help support the intersex movement to at the formative stage, but also to be their voices to be included within the national spaces where policy engagement work had also started at that particular time. around inclusion of intersex identities, inclusion of, ensuring there is a third gender marker, in ensuring that their conversation, even the task force, the formation of the task force, that there are intersex voices within even the task force that was being formed for intersex persons. So I think, in a nutshell, that has been the history to where we are right now, where we can say we definitely are celebrating so many wins and so many gains. I think, moving forward, we will talk about some of the wins and some of the gains and some of the milestones that we have covered within the spaces to ensure that voices of intersex persons are heard, to ensure that intersex persons are deliberately included, but also not forgetting where we came from. I remember the first time we were engaging with intersex persons was through an organization, one of the LBQ organizations in Western Kenya, was conducting a CAP survey, knowledge, attitude, and practice survey within the rural areas of Western Kenya, and that is Voices of Women in Western Kenya, VOWE. And from this survey, work as an organization that used to work within the rural areas, one of the entry points was intersex, because as for an LBQ organization to work within the rural area, their entry point was intersex persons. And this was an entry point because this is something that the rural areas could understand. The people could understand. The people could say, well, we can relate to this. There is a Luo word called GAT that refers to intersex persons, And so that used to be the entry point at that particular time. And there were very horrifying stories from the midwives on experiences of intersex persons. So not forgetting that part of the experiences of intersex persons, and including like normalization of conversion therapy, normalization of various practices, either religious or cultural or medical practices, including surgeries, that are part of histories for the journey of intersex persons, to the current wins that we would say the intersex persons are celebrating, and we try to really support as activists and find a way to navigate so that we say tunapenya na intersex, tunapenya na wase the intersex conversation as well as other minorities, sexual and gender minorities. So thank you, and back to you, Doreen.
Thank you so much. Just to make it clear, it is the LGBTQ community that was the first house that housed the intersex people.
Bado tuko ama nilienda sana.
Tuko. Nimeshukuru sana. Just to make it clear, it is the LGBTQ community that housed the intersex people first. So most of the time people will ask you, why is the intersex people mingling with the LGBTQ community? We cannot talk about the intersex people without talking about the LGBTQ community. We cannot talk about the LGBTQ community without talking the intersex community, because the challenges the LGBTQ community as an umbrella are the same challenges that the intersex people face. So we cannot separate the two. That is for someone who doesn't understand. The homophobia cases, that biphobia cases, the transphobia cases, all those are challenges that are affecting the intersex people. So we cannot separate the two. So another thing that I will talk about when it comes to the intersectionality of the intersex people is the gender-based violence. And when it comes to gender-based violence, this is violence based on someone's gender. When we are having the medical interventions happening, when we are having the bullying, discrimination, someone being bullied because of who they are, because of how they were born, that is a form of gender-based violence. So the societal misconception of how someone is supposed to be, how someone is supposed to be perceived, quote unquote, normal, is what creates this discrimination. This is what is creating the bullying, the stigma that is also happening with the intersex community. And the gender identity of an intersex person sometimes or most of the time is a problem to many people, because you are in a society. You want to be identified as who you are, but the community does not identify you as a normal person. So these are just some of the few examples that I say are relating to the intersex people and also relating to the other community members. Uh, Going forward, I would also like Mr. Fidi to just give us his experience as an intersex person. How has the journey been as an activist? How has it been being one of the best founders we've had in Kenya so far? For those who don't know Fidi, Fidi is the president, Variable Care Society. He's the founder of Variable Care Society, and of course, he's my boss. So Fidi, karibu sana. Tell us a few words and how the journey has been. Thank you.
Greetings once more. Thanks for the opportunity. But before I can I speak anything, kwa hii nyumba kuna wakongwe, so I'm inviting kwa Mheshimiwa Kwamboka to say something and then I can pick it from there. Karibu sana Kwamboka. You're
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm very happy that we have this meeting. My name is Frank Robert Kibagendi. Nilibadilisha hii majina from February. So nafikiria hiyo itakuwa sawa. Nataka kucontribute kidogo. Despite the fact that we had inclusion of intersex persons kwa general census, pia tuko na 2022 Children Act yenye ni sheria. Mnanisikia? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. We have Children Act 2022 yenye clearly ina protect rights of intersex children. Now when we talk about 2022 Children Act, inatupatia ruhusa ya anytime an intersex child amezaliwa, and no birth notification, birth certificate inaindicatiwa hiyo I. Then from there, right now we are doing intersex bill. Intersex bill tumeimaliza, iko kwa parliament, inaingia kwa parliament, and I'm expecting to have a public participation through parliament. And then number 3, to the other day we were contributing towards the assisted reproductive health bill. We understand that assisted reproductive health in Kenya kawaida ni ya watu wadosi, surrogacy, adona nini, mnaelewa hiyo ni vitu ya watu wenye wako na pesa Kenya. But now we brought in an aspect of intersex persons because sasa tunatetewa na Children Act, na kwa hiyo assisted reproductive health bill unapata 80% of the document walikuwa natumia marriage between a man and a woman, but we brought in the aspect of a couple. That means that intersex persons can be included in that assisted reproductive health bill. Then apart from assisted, then kuna reproductive health bill. Na kwa reproductive health bill, again, kitu yenye sahi inatutetea kama intersex persons ni hiyo Children Act 2020. So kitu yenye mimi naweza sema, tusiwe na sheria yenye iko tu kwa mashelfu. The only way tunaweza fanya hii kazi ionekane ni kupitia kwa na several conversations kwa intersex persons. Na ikifanya hivyo inakuwa rahisi sana.
Kwamboka, unapotea, regelea tena kindly.
Aya, ni wapi nilipotelea?
Baki junction ya Machakos kindly.
Ndio nauliza ni wapi nilipotelea? What was the last thing you talked about?
The last word we had was on the Children's Act, talking about I think it was on the Children's Act, yeah.
Hamukupata anything concerning assisted reproductive health right? Nini bill?
Your
Umepata?
microphone is on and off, on and off. The volume, I don't know if it's you're using earphones, but it's a
Or let
little bit
me.
fluctuating. Yes,
Sasa niko sawa.
very clear. Yes.
Good. Now, apart from the Children Act, we have a intersex bill. Now, about the intersex bill, iko kwa parliament as we talk now, and we are waiting for them to check the document. Then from there tutakuwa na public parliament. Ukija kwa somebody mwenye anaona kuwa aku nini ya information yake ikufika ama views zake sikufika, itakuwa ni rahisi sana ku input. Then kutoka hapo tuko na assisted reproductive bill. Assisted reproductive health bill, then pia tumeongezea intersex kwa sababu 80% of that document ilikuwa inaongelelea juu ya marriage, and you know in a Kenyan constitution marriage is between a man and a woman. So from there to include intersex, and also the document now reads a couple instead of a man and a woman.
Yeah.
So and then kutoka hapo tuko na health bill, reproductive health bill, na pia tunaendelea kuichambua na kuongezea what we can ongezea as intersex persons and also some experts, but anything that will be favoring intersex persons. Nimesikia Ruka akisema wao ni wakongwe. Ni kweli wao ni wakongwe. Nilianza activism 2011 na tumekuwa hapo specifically for intersex persons kwa sababu kwa the Racha community at least ko left behind a bit, but we thank God that Kenya tumesonga, then within Africa and other countries at least they are wanasoma a few things from Kenya as intersex persons is concerned. Then nafikiria tunafanya poa, but the last point nilikuwa nasema, hiyo ingine nilikuwa nachongoa tu Ruka. The last point nilikuwa nasema, the only way we can have like a clear picture on intersex persons, putting in mind that in Kenya tuko na nini inaitwa nini culture and religion yenye ni issue, is a very serious issue when it comes to intersex persons. Huyo mtoi the only way anaweza saliwa na aendelee kukua ni kupitia communities and understand this is not a curse. Huyu ni mtoto kama wale wengine, but kama tunaweza kuwa na those documents in government shelves, na sisi kama activists atu advocate for the rights of intersex persons mashinani, which means itakuwa tu ni bure, kwa sababu sometimes we refer to some countries like Malta yenye imefanya kazi mzuri but kwa ground hakuna. So tusiwe kama those countries. I feel like we need we want to have those bills or those laws na kwa ground kuna kazi inafanyika, na the only way we can do all that ni kukuwa na more organizations kwa ground. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kwamboka. Umekuwa insightful. Not insightful, udeni. Yeah. Fidi, karibu tena. Asante sana.
Asante sana Doreen. Thank you so much Mheshimiwa Kwamboka. Hapa tuko na wakongwe na ninakaribisha na ninashukuru wakongwe wote wenye wamechukua fursa na muda yao ya kuwa na sisi kwa siku ya leo. Kiswahili ni sawa ama tuende kwa Kiingereza?
Nachanganya yote.
Sasa nachukua fursa hii kwa kuwakaribisha na kuwashukuru our guest speakers, Elizabeth, Marianne, thank you so much and for sharing with us. I'm also taking this opportunity to thank Senior Caroline Ruka for the journey and the experience. We learn from people like Ruka. I personally learned from Ruka a lot of things. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank Mheshimiwa Kwamboka. Mheshimiwa Kwamboka, allow me to speak a little bit more about you. In this journey, you've been a lamp holder for all the intersex persons, and from a personal journey and seated where I am today, I think I'm so much grateful to all the activists who've been outside there fighting for the rights of the marginalized people, like the intersex persons. And I want to say one thing. We form alliances for reasons. So it doesn't matter if somebody is an LBQ, somebody is a feminist, somebody is so and so. When it comes to matters of humanity, it's the buck stops with humanity. So somebody can be an LBQ, yes, but fighting for the rights of intersex persons. So all the contribution and the hard work that all the activists have been doing is well appreciated, and for this reason, I always say, if like Ruka had said, it used to be the full capital LGBTIQ. So the journey started from somewhere. So we appreciate so much the existence and the journey that all the activists have walked, and they've also shared with us. Kwamboka, thank you very much for the good work you guys are doing up there. And now I'd like to talk about me as an individual, and probably talk about Variable Care Society. To start with, it's just a brief. My name is Philly. I'm the founder of Variable Care Society, a platform that advocates for the rights and the inclusion of intersex persons. It's a voice. And again, I always say one thing, intersex people don't stay in the probably hawaishi baharini, wanaishi katika jamii. Kwa hivyo hatuwezi sema kuwa leo Variable Care Society itakuwa inaangalia masuala ya intersex persons peke yao. Hiyo haitowezekana. Tunakaa kwa jamii na lazima kwa jamii tujumuike kupigania haki zetu sote kama jamii. Intersex pia ni part of the community. So that is what we do as a Variable Care Society, and I'm grateful that today we are here, and I'm grateful that today we are with all our alliances. And let this not be the last journey that we walk. Let it be the beginning of our long journey. So kwa hayo nitasema shukran. Sijui kama Doreen kuna lingine unataka mimi nizungumzie. I stand to be guided. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. What I'd like you to share with us is, how has the journey been as an intersex person and also as an activist?
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be brief. The journey as an intersex person has not been all that merry, but I thank God. I'll say that I, as an individual, I've been advocating for my own rights since growing up, and probably tossed into the activism probably in 2017, 2018. Walking in as an intersex person has not been easy, especially regarding the religion and the culture. Somebody talked about it, I think it's Kwamboka. It's been very challenging because given the beliefs, in fact, I walked into a space and I was told, the fact that you are alive today, we don't know how that happened, because you guys were supposed to be killed at birth, sorry. And it's been a journey of a lot of misconceptions due to maybe ignorance or probably lack of information. And I'd love to say that it's not easy even right now. Given I'll talk about Coast Region, especially the Kilifi County, what we are doing right now as an organization. We are trying to do door-to-door community outreach programs, teaching people about intersex persons, the existence of intersex persons, and the response is not that what you'd expect in this century, but again, we will get there. So it's been a journey, and it's still a journey, and we are soldiering on. Thank you very much, Doreen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Philly. Um, just to keep everyone on the loop, if you have any questions or anything to share with us, kindly just raise your hand and I'll give you the opportunity to share with us. And I'm also sending in a link for the participant list. So kindly fill it in as soon as you can so that we also get to have your information. Thank you so much. So going forward, I would also like to from Liz, what would you like us to, what are the measures that organizations should do when it comes to collaborations, when it comes to joining hands in at a particular course, so that we don't just limit a certain individual or a certain aspect of individuals to a certain organization or a certain community, but what are those recommendations that you'd prefer to be handled on going forward as an activist and the experience that you've also had? Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen, for your question. So, my recommendation number one will be to try and work together. I know that we always fear that if we start working together, then we might lose our unique individualities in the process. So everyone just wants to make sure that the different typology that they are working with, like their voices are heard, and no one is like, everyone just wants to ensure that their organizations are like, their organizations are in I would say safe space. So we fear to work together. But I will say that because we all have a greater goal that is common, so it will be very important for us to continue pushing for our different agendas in a united way. And by doing that, we will be able like to echo our voices, because I know that there are spaces where, for example, as a sex worker I cannot go to, or as a lesbian you cannot go to. So if we are like, if we have a partnership, then we can say we can actually use the win that our government has finally recognized intersex persons. So in spaces where we cannot go wholly who we are, like if it's a sex worker or a lesbian or a gay man, I think an intersex person can represent us well there. Even in community engagements where we have people who still do not want to recognize that sex work is work, people who don't want to recognize that love is love, you know, we can send people who at least like the community is like, for this certain group we can accept. Because I remember there was a time there was a meeting with some shehes, and they were saying that they will accept transgender people, but they wouldn't accept sex work. So this person was like, oh, the conversation about sex work muddies the water. But I was glad that because transgender people are accepted into this space, they were able to actually advocate for inclusion of sex workers as well in that same space. So another thing I will say is, as activists, we should also stop doing selective advocacy, whereby you choose what to advocate for and what not to advocate for. Like people will say that I am better off saying that I am a human rights activist than specifying which group of people I am advocating for. I feel like if we go in truth and on our stories, tell our stories on our own without choosing what to and what not to, then we are also able to like build a strong movement. And then I will also like to share that we continue sharing. I actually applaud Don Fidi for the work that he's doing with VCS. So like living and boldly doing our work, doing our advocacy, like let the work speak for you. And we should also not be scared of embracing partnerships, because like we are already a marginalized community. And then we also live in Kenya where our government is heaven sent. And we also still exist in a community where there is still a strong punitive cultural beliefs, and we have bylaws, we have national laws that really infringes on our rights. So the to fight each other. So the number one step will be to end movement politics. And how we end politics is actually embracing diversity, because there is power in our different diversities. There is actually there is a win if we try to acknowledge that uh, we are different people existing differently, but we are working together for this certain goal. Actually, it is our differences that actually makes the movement. So I feel like everyone working in silos, like saying we are solely for LBQs or for sex workers, that actually is the enemy. Even the laws are not the enemies. Even the culture, even the social norms are not the enemy. It is us dividing ourselves. So if we are able to embrace that diversity and realize that like the sex work movement is not able to stand on its own, or the feminist movement is not able to be here if it were not for the sex workers starting earlier back in the 60s, the 70s, to like picket and march on the streets demanding for women's rights, then right now we would not have a women's rights movement. If it were not for Akina Marsha P. Johnson, then right now we would have nowhere like to to start as transgender people. So realizing that like we exist in that we exist in the different diversities that we are, that is where our movement exists. So embracing our diversities will actually take us far. I have said a lot of things, Doreen, so I'd just like to hand it over.
You've said a lot of things, but things that are actually making sense. And I hope, how I wish every organization could hear what you've said, in that we cannot stand alone as an organization. We need each other in this movement. We need everyone in this movement because, as Findia said, we work in a community. And a community is not comprised of one individual. We are comprised of so many different people, and it is our diversity that identifies us. And before going forward, I would like to recognize the presence of let me just get it clear, of Atieno. Atieno, kindly, yeah, just say a word and also share your thoughts on this conversation. Thank you.
Hi, Doreen. Is this Acheno me?
Yes, it's you, Atieno. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I do not have a lot to share, but I'm following the conversation. It's very interesting to hear the intersex activism, and yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Ruka, this is going to you. Just kindly make us, what are your thoughts in our future goals and priorities of the intersex rights movement moving forward? Just to repeat it, What would you say, or should we as intersex activists or human rights activists, what are the future goals and priorities that we need to look into in our movement as activists and also advocates of human rights?
Thank you once again, Doreen, for that question. Okay, so what are our future priorities? I think priorities is a commingle, but like one thing I would like to highlight before I even like talk about like specific priorities and what to specifically focus on, that there's this report actually that I really like referring to, because it actually, refers to all dynamics and gives like very good recommendations that I think people should read, or everybody should read or contribute to. It's by AMCA Africa. I don't know if you know AMCA Africa Justice Initiative. They did a report on intersex folks. They have various like really good pieces. But this one not broken, so don't fit. So do not fit. Most of the times, as I was speaking earlier, is when like we have normalized conversion therapy for intersex, especially intersex children, from even birth. The horrific stories that I was talking about, we've had around intersex folks, even Fidi sharing that at this age that he is in, he's being told that you should not have been lived to adulthood. It's because of those horrific stories, issues of torture, issues of degrading treatment that intersex children go through, and that is why we are having people say that you should have died when you were a child. Yeah, it's because like when once somebody is born intersex, there is that kind of normalization of wanting to fix it. What are you fixing? We are saying that intersex bodies are normal bodies, intersex persons are normal persons, they are not abnormal, and so they do not need fixing. So I really always like referring to this, because this report then shows that there's these things that religion, I talked about religion, culture, and medicine try to normalize and fix and steal away that autonomy, steal away choice, steal away agency of intersex persons, and that should not be normalized. And we need to prioritize that kind of engagement from childhood, because like parents always feel that they are doing a good thing for the child by consenting to surgeries at an early stage, at an early age. They consent to these surgeries at an early age, and then later you find someone is having all in all their documents a different gender marker from how they are presenting themselves. A person looks masculine, very male, identifies as a man, with gender markers of a female. In all their documents, they've been raised as a female. They've been socially brought up as a female, and this then contributes to violence towards intersex persons. It contributes to issues around access. It contributes worsens mental health outcomes for intersex persons, amongst other things. So, number one thing that we need to do is ensure that there is information on the ground that intersex bodies, intersex persons are normal persons. That is the intersex as recognized by Kwamboka talked about the Children's Act of 2022. There needs to be that kind of recognition, and by ensuring that we don't normalize these conversion practices that have been going on through medicine, that have been going on through religion, that have been going on through cultural practices against intersex persons, by ensuring that we pass the right information and say intersex bodies are normal bodies. Intersex bodies are not broken. intersex bodies do not need fixing, and that will help go a long way in even attitude transformation. I remember in the last census, 2019, and one of the things that happened is that even the enumerators were not asking those questions. They were not asking, you know, but like at this particular time, like the whole community was really happy that, you know, Kenya has included the first African country, one of the first countries even in the world to ensure that intersex persons are counted. Yeah. And the enumerators were not asking these questions, and those that were being asked could not answer because of attitudes, and some parents really feared because they were like, why are we being asked such a questions, with the stigma and discrimination that even society, when they know you have an intersex child or there is an intersex person in the family, it comes with. So there is need for knowledge, bridging that knowledge gap around intersex identities and intersex persons, so that we are able to transform attitudes, so that when there comes census, we will get a true reflection of the number of intersex persons in the country, for instance, because the last census showed there were around 1,500 intersex persons. These are people that boldly came out to be counted. But that is not a true representation because of stigma, because of discrimination, because of lack of knowledge, because of the fact that enumerators were not even asking, because they are programmed to think that gender is in the binary notion. Yeah, they did not ask. Like, I remember when an enumerator came to my house, and I actually asked the enumerator why they didn't ask me that question. And they said they can see. And I'm like, can you see intersex? Can you see my chromosomes? Can you see my, my hormones? Like, can you see? What do you mean you can see? That kind of knowledge was lacking. So what we need to prioritize is information, giving information so that we can transform attitudes. Information will help transform attitudes. Information will help transform, like, norm change work needs information. Yeah, policy, for us to even be part of, policy work, because right now Kwamboka talked about the Intersex Bill 2023 that will go to public participation soon. What are we doing as activists to ensure that communities, that grassroots, that people within the ground have information around intersex people so that they can participate and contribute to the bill, the Intersex Persons Bill 2023, so that when this bill is passed, like, there's that kind of information, there's that kind of goodwill. See, to, like, we have policies on paper, and whatever is happening on the ground is, intersex persons are being killed, intersex persons are being targeted, intersex persons cannot access healthcare. We need to ensure that hakuna kiatu moja itafit kila kitu, but at least contribute to ensuring that there is information on the ground, so that time kuna public participation. People come out in large numbers and ask, and put duty bearers to task to ensure inclusion of intersex persons. Like in Kenya, like the UN approximates, Kenya has over 1.4 million intersex persons, and the last census only showed 1,500. We need to ask ourselves as activists, why is there this kind of discrepancy? How did we contribute to the last census? How did we contribute? Contribute aje? Uliza ma questions, sensitize communities ndio wana engage the intersex persons, like Fidi said, wanaishi kwa communities. We need to ensure that we engage these communities so that there is acceptance and issues around intersex acceptance from the grassroots, And the other thing that I also want we would prioritize is issues around policy work, and I think I can't underscore the policy journey that has been mentioned, and I think Kwamboka really talked about and mentioned all the policies, the health bill, all the policies that we can leverage on, including and not limited to, international instruments, freedom against torture, freedom of choice, including, like, even the African Commission just the other day, they passed a resolution that then gives intersex persons, that autonomy. Let us bring these kinds of resolutions that are happening within the African front to life, so that then we are able to, to say this is something that, even the African Charter recognizes. The African Commission on Human and People's Rights have a resolution that is very specific to intersex persons, regardless of easy vitu zenye zina happen around LGBTI movement nini, but kuna various resolutions and various policies that, directly aim at protecting intersex persons. Let us bring these policies to life. Let us hold our leaders accountable. Let us ensure there is, budgetary allocations so that these things are brought to fruition. So that would be it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you for that input. That was very thoughtful, and I hope everyone they contribute to the movement in those areas. Mr. Fidi, what will be your thoughts when it comes to the roles of the allies and how they can support the intersex community? Hello, Mr. Fidi.
Come again, Doreen.
All right. What will be your thoughts to the allies and how can they support their roles and also to support the intersex people? So, what will be your thoughts to the allies how they can support the intersex community?
Thank you, Doreen. I think I had shared my thoughts before, and my thoughts are very, very, very clear. When it comes to allies, I said one thing. We are not an island. We are individuals. Intersex people are individuals. They are part of the community. They are our families. They are our sisters, our brothers. They are part of us. So when you talk about allies, and that's why I said, as much as Variable Care Society, we started on a journey of advocating for the rights and the inclusivity of intersex persons in the society, in the recognition and inclusion of intersex persons in the society. We cannot close the doors and say now this is an LBQ. We don't need them here. This is ABCD. No, 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 no. We are all human beings, and this journey, you can never walk it alone. Okay? So I'm very, very clear. Everything stops at humanity. It starts at humanity. Before even identifying somebody, the humanity part of it carries the flag. So we are all equal. Let us work together, and I think we can reach a big coverage of the community when we work together. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. From my end, I don't have more questions. I don't know if anyone has a question that they would like to be addressed to our speakers so that we learn together. Or if you have any concern that you'd like to share with us, kindly just raise your hand and I will give you the opportunity. Okay, sawa sawa. So mimi ni kuwashukuru wote ambao okay, we have a question here. Just a moment. Moses, you can continue.
Thank you, Doreen. I don't have a question, but just to congratulate my fellow human rights activists who are with us. I think they are playing a very big role to the community, since we understand that intersex persons are passing through a lot, they're facing a lot of challenges. And maybe to emphasize on what Mr. Fidi has talked about, that is, we understand that intersex are individual and are in the community. So when it comes to advocating for the rights of intersex, or rather the marginalized group, we need to know that they are also coming from the society. So if we are looking for human rights or dealing with human rights, then we will be looking at the society at large and not intersex persons alone. I don't have much, just to appreciate everyone who have joined this conversation, and yes, we can continue with the activism. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Philip. Just to inform you that Variable Care Society currently has a podcast. Our podcast is aiming. It's called Our Voices KE, and we are talking about in our podcast is we are voicing the voice of the vulnerable community. We are voicing the voice of contentious issues in our community. And of course, we also voicing the voice of the intersex people. So look up to us in our all the where you get your podcast. That is Spotify, Google Podcast, all the sites that you use to get your podcast. Variable Care Society is on Spotify. It is also on Google Podcast and also Apple Podcasts. So join us, listen in if you want to. If you have any issues you like to be part of the movement on our podcast, kindly also reach out to us. We will be glad to host you in our podcasts. So from me, I don't have much, but to thank you so much for creating your time, taking your busy day. I know it's a weekend, and those who have shared with us, I believe we have learned together. I believe we will continue with the movement, and I believe that in our own capacity, we'll educate those who don't know about this movement to continue and to also join us in this movement. Liz, I don't know if you have your last remarks to share with us to carry on. Ruka, any last words? Fidi, any last words to share with us?
Okay, so thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for the insights. As was mentioned, intersex persons are not an island. Yeah, intersex persons live within these communities. Intersex persons also face other intersecting. They have various intersecting identities. Being intersex is just one of them that puts them at disadvantages. They have sexual orientation issues, the issues around sexual orientation. They also have issues around gender identity, and plus the sex characteristics, of course. So we need to coalesce our efforts and not work in silos. And as human rights activists, your human rights for kila mtu. See ati you can champion for, specific rights and other rights. That is where you draw the line. Or you can champion for, LGBT rights, but when it comes to sex workers' rights, that's where you draw the line. Yeah. There is no human that is limited. So kila mtu, when we're talking about for you to be an activist, for you to be a human rights defender, defend human rights for all. mention the various people, intersex in all spaces, and like be deliberate about representation. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much. Liz, any last words?
Seems Liz is not with us. Huh?
Yeah.
So let me take this opportunity to appreciate everyone that took their time to be here with us. Shukran sana, tuzidi na tusongeze gurudumu ya utetezi wa haki mbele mbele, na pia ningechukua hii fursa ya kukaribisha the entire community. Variable Care Society has a podcast, as Doreen has mentioned, our Voices KE podcast. It is open for everyone in the community, everyone in the movement. If you feel that you need to use the space, you have something to share with us and the entire world, feel most welcomed. It is your space, it is our space, it's everyone's space. Karibuni sana.
Thank you so much. Karibuni sana. Liz is still not with us. So from my desk, I managed to still thank you, and I hope we have this engagement sometime soon. We continue this conversation, and I wish you all a very happy weekend going forward. Asante sana.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.